Welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. I'm your host, Debra Chantry-Taylor. I'm passionate about helping entrepreneurs and their leadership teams get what they want out of business and life. On the show, I invite successful business owners and expert speakers to share their successes. They are open and honest about the highs and lows of business and also life as a business owner. We want to share those learnings with you to inspire you, but also to help you avoid some of the common mistakes. My hope is that you take something from each of these short episodes that you can put into action to help you get what you want, not only out of your business, but also your life. So good morning and welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. This morning I am joined by Levent Yildizgoren, who is currently based over in Sussex in the UK, but it was originally from Turkey. And Levent he's a co-founder of a business called TTCV Translate, but he's also written a book called, Good Business in any language. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Welcome to the show, Levent. Lovely to have you here.
Hello, Debra, and it's great to be on your show.
Thank you very much. Hey, look, we'd love to hear a little bit about your story before we get started, because today we're going to talk about international business and what businesses can do to expand into different markets. But I'd love to hear a little about you first and your story, how you got to where you are. Would be a great start.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this. Well, I came to the UK to study when I was 18 years old. So I lived longer in the UK than I lived in Turkey. And what interested me to get into the translation and localization business was the excitement that every time we overcome some cultural and language barriers, there was a great satisfaction. And helping business executives to do the same is realize that this is like a very satisfying thing to do. And we co-founded our company, TTCV Translate, with my wife. And it wasn't a kind of a logical decision. It was more like emotional. And we very much wanted to control our future. My wife, after our first child was born, didn't want to go back to full-time employment. So we set up a boutique translation company, mainly doing English to Turkish translations. And around about 1995, we had an opportunity to acquire a smaller business, and also we had a kind of large project, and realized that actually this is the time for me to join the company. And so within 2 weeks, I resigned from my job where I was the director of a printing company. And within 2 weeks, we found ourselves in our living room trying to finish that project while our children with a childminder sitting at the other side of the room. We had like French doors in between. Yep. And I distinctly remember that my daughter coming to the sort of door and saying, Mommy, I want to sit on your lap, And every time phone rang, we had to say to them, children, be quiet, turn down the TV. We need to speak to the customers. And so they must have gone some sort of traumatic experience, our children. I'm pleased to say they are now, happily grown up adults, with married, and so they are happy. But
they're pretty okay.
At the time, it must have been quite difficult, and for us as well, because now with the pandemic, everyone is working remotely, and people are proud to say, well, my dog may come around or my cat may jump on the screen, so please bear with us, or my children may run around. At the time, it was like not that acceptable. And so we were feeling the pressure. Yeah. And it's been kind of a long journey, but, we never looked back. So that's the best part about it. So this is where I am today as a result of those activities, and love the fact that we can actually help a business executive overcome cultural and language barriers.
That's awesome. I can see it's your passion. So in terms of, we always ask our guests for a professional and a personal best. So what are the two things that you're most proud of, both from a personal sense and from a professional sense?
Well, professional sense, I'm really proud of our company. It's been going this is our 30th year. And it's been going and it's growing, it's helping. We help charities and we support United Nations global growth. And, we try to give back to the language industry, help build an ecosystem. And the second one is really that we created a competition, translation competition, having noticed the gap between university translation students and the commercial reality. We created that competition, translation competition 9 years ago with University of Essex, where we take one of our customers, a real project, real life project to the university. Customer explains to students what they want to achieve, what they need the translations for, and we facilitate the translation. So everyone wins because the students get the real experience of a real project. Our customers get exposure being associated with a large educational establishment, and also they get translations that they can use. Of course, it's been checked and checked again and to make sure that this is fit for purpose. This has been going for 9 years. Next year, it will be the 10th year. And I'm really proud of that because as a result of that competition, students are getting interested in working in the translation industry. Mm-hmm. And some of them are really finding good jobs, likes of Apple, Facebook, Google, and it is really making me proud. Yeah. And it is one of the longest serving initiatives at University of Essex. So that's really great.
That's great. So the 10th year coming up, that's pretty exciting.
It is very, very exciting. And because when we started it, we thought, okay, let's give this a try and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And then the second year, the same, third, and now, we're doing the 9th year. So it's feeling, and there are 2 universities want to join the competition. So it's kind of, the news are spreading. Mm-hmm. And I wish more translation companies do the same because for us, it's fun. Yep. Okay, it requires resources, time, but it is so rewarding seeing that there are students that are getting inspired by that competition to join our industry. So that's really great pleasure.
Fantastic. Well done.
I think on a personal level, I think it's my biggest, what I feel most proud of my children. They are grown up adults with their families, and seeing them happy and helping around and everything that makes me really, really proud.
Excellent. And you were saying when we were talking earlier that the kids used to get involved in the translation business and do the photocopying and help out with the admin and stuff. Have either of them decided to go into their own business?
Well, my son has been running multiple businesses, and now he's working with his wife doing Google paid search, and they're doing really well. Yeah, I think also my daughter is working as a sales and development in a law firm, global law firm, and they're telling me that the experience they had, getting immersed into the business in a way that nobody was forcing them. They just wanted to do it themselves. Mm-hmm. And then what they did at the time, from the age of like 12, 13, they realized that they are benefiting so much from that because they're saying that they can adapt to changing circumstances very quickly and nothing is too much trouble for them. So they are grateful that they have taken part, which makes me really proud.
That's fantastic. Pleased to hear it. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit now about international business, and I guess it's your area of expertise. But your book, that's Good Business in any language. Tell me a little bit about what it is you actually do with companies. So you've talked about working with companies and helping them, helping them find what markets they can enter into. But what does that look like? Yeah.
Well, thank you for asking that. Well, that's a great question. Now, as a business owner myself, it is so easy to get immersed into profit and loss account and try to cut the cost and control the cost. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not suggesting we shouldn't. We should, because we're working hard for our cash. But to grow the company, controlling the cost isn't enough. In fact, it takes the mindset to a wrong place, I believe. And looking at global brands and successful companies, the ones that really grow healthily and steadily, and they sustain it by taking their products or services to international markets, because that gives them, they've taken, they must have spent years to develop their service or product. It's fine-tuned. They have product and service, and they just take it to a new market. Is it straightforward? Is it easy? No, it's not. But the rewards are so high. And we've seen this example in large companies. 2009, Apple said they're taking iPhone to China. Now, everyone knew iPhone by then. It was a successful product. It was working really well, had a loyal customer base. And the moment they said that, their share price gone up even more, because stock market knew that by taking, having a different, another channel, they will grow. Considering China is such a huge market, that was no brainer. But same applies to small to medium-sized companies. By going to a new market, their domestic market may come to a saturation point. Their competition may get higher, So by just reaching to another market who hasn't tasted that product or service, they get so much more opportunities. I've seen this many times working with dozens of customers over the years. And that transformation, we realize that we can help that transformation, mainly by helping them overcome cultural and language barriers. But then seeing the mistakes that keep coming by some companies, many companies do similar mistakes over and over again. Then I realized that actually the ones who are successful are following a strict methodology. Yes. And I said, what can we do from our experience? What can we do? How can we guide them, with a methodology? So as a result, I developed a methodology we call LINGO. It is a 5 simple step methodology to go global. It can be applicable to any business, whether product-based or service-based. And it's not a rocket science. This is just following those steps to achieve that result. So that's what we do for our customers. We help them to reach those target customers, adapting their messages, adapting their user guides, software, or interfaces to make sure that the target audience actually makes sense of what they are hearing from those companies.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because as you said, it's certainly not an easy process, but it has huge rewards for the company.
Yes.
I'm sure some of my listeners have probably tried it before or are thinking about going into a new market. What would be the biggest sort of common mistakes or pitfalls that a business would make when trying to enter into a new market?
Great question, Debra. Thank you for asking this. The one that I come across most is that assuming what worked in their domestic market will work anywhere. Yep. I think that is the biggest mistake. That requires, reaching to a different target audience in another country requires a different mindset. The cultural and language barriers are a lot higher than we give them credit for. I think there's a big misconception that everybody speaks English. That's partly true. There's a lot of people speak English, understand English, but they don't make purchasing decisions on their second language. It is it's their native language that they immerse the information, get an emotional connection with the product or service, then it leads them to make that purchasing decision.
It's funny you
So
remind me, because my mum was actually German, and she'd lived in the UK since she was 19 years old, so she was very much British. However, whenever she counted in German, and whenever she dreamt in German. So despite English
wow.
being her natural kind of first language after many, many years, she still always reverted back to German for dreaming and counting.
Yes, I mean, culture and languages is what makes us in a way, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's very natural. What you described is very, very interesting, but I find it very natural.
Yeah. Okay. So they do it. So they revert back to their sort of, we revert back to our sort of natural language to start engaging with the product, to do our research and whatnot. And so what is that? If you haven't done your homework, what can go wrong?
Well, unfortunately, a lot can go wrong if a business executive doesn't do that, the right research, or doesn't go deeper into the market to understand certain barriers. Mm-hmm. And so I've got one example, a very great company producing industrial solvent, good product, they sell very well. And a distributor persuades them to take their product into Polish market. And so the minimum that they can take is 5,000 units. Mm-hmm. So the packaging, the labeling, and everything has to done in that many units, and the transport logistics. And when I spoke to them, they said, well, we'll never do international trade again, because that was a disaster, Oh. And once we continued speaking, then I realized that they acted on what they heard. So they didn't do any due diligence.
Right.
And as a result, they say never again. So that's a great shame, because they're kind of creating a barrier themselves not to do any more international trade, whereas they have a great product. Maybe Poland wasn't the right market for them. Yeah. But it is possible that they're next door to Poland may be a market, or Germany, which is a big country in industrially, developed and everything. Maybe Germany could be a great market. It's just a matter of doing this initial research to make sure that there is a demand for that product. And often this research can be done by our computers using Google research, Google Trends, Google Keyword Planner. Those are free tools that help us to gauge that volume of searches. And that gives an idea, because they're already selling that product in their home country. So they can see, actually, they can compare the searches and gauge, is it viable to take that product or service to that country? So
I suppose also it's about thinking about, English is a language which you say is widely used, but it can mean so many different things in different ways, or use different words. So I work with an American-based company who is based all around the world. But, you talk to somebody from Europe, you talk to somebody from the UK, you talk to somebody from the US or from Australia or New Zealand, and we actually use different words for the same thing. I'm wearing a pair of flip-flops at the moment on my feet because I'm sitting in my own studio, but over here they're called jandals, and in the Australia they're called thongs, and in the US I'm not quite sure what they're called. So it's really interesting that even something of the same language can actually have quite different meanings. Yeah, absolutely right.
Like confectionery in the USA is known as candy.
Yes,
but candy wouldn't make any sense here. And also, you're originally from UK, so you will know this. It took me years to understand it. When my English friends said, I quite like this.
That's a really high praise.
It took me years to understand that actually they didn't like it. They were just being polite.
Yes, okay, yeah.
So but when Americans say, I quite like it, they like it very much. And so, yes, even with the same language, there could be, the meanings could be very different.
Yeah. So you're speaking my language, because market validation is something that I actually trained in, and I know it's really important. I'd never considered it for, overseas markets, because I only work generally in the local area. But how does it sort of differ? I know you can do some things online, and I think I heard you say that the customer had listened to what they'd been told. But they've only spoken to one person, is that right? Or they've spoken to a couple of people and built up a whole business plan based on speaking to a couple of people rather than really delving deeper. Is that what you were saying?
Very much, yes. It is. It's actually doing this market research in a way that to gauge the customer demand, so that they can actually, when they've taken that step, there's no surprises. And one of my customers, they sell hangers in all across Europe, and what they noticed that it is the customers' habits are differ when it comes to using hangers. Some use wooden hangers, some use metal, some
so
use
hangers
plastic.
for your wardrobe. Okay, yep.
Yeah.
I was imagining aircraft hangers. I was thinking, oh, okay.
I should have made it clear. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. So hangers. Yeah. So some use plastic, some use wood, some use whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so many different types of hangers. There's hangers for skirts and trousers and jackets and t-shirts, and just making sure that which one is in demand in that country.
Yeah.
If they say that, okay, the wooden hangers in the UK selling very well, so yeah, come on, we'll just ship so many thousands to this market.
Yeah.
Whereas, just understanding the habits of this target audience, which type of hangers they prefer. And once they start asking those questions, I think they get to the right results. Because it's like understanding, it's not what I like, it's what my customer may like, and I need to find out what that is. And also, even in Europe, there are differences in regards to holidays. If the product requires logistics is important and requires to get to the customers on certain times, then, for instance, Easter is coming, but Easter holidays are different between the UK and other European countries. Even in Germany, there are different regional holidays. So these are small details, but can have a big impact on logistics. Yes. And it's so easy. They are so easy to find. I think the curiosity. There needs to be a curiosity. There needs to be a sort of really a methodology to follow. Okay, what are the habits in this country? What is the languages? What are the cultural habits? Is the Facebook country? Google AdWords, will it work or we need something else? What's the chats they use? How do they make payment? In China, they use, they don't even use credit cards anymore. They use mobile pay. Alipay, I think something called, even street traders, they accept Alipay. Nobody wants cash anymore. Yes. So understanding all these details, nuances helps them succeed. So it's really not rocket science. It just requires a mindset to be curious and find out exactly what is. So I say very much like a good project management skills can help a lot.
Yeah. And I think in your flyer that I saw about, talking about what you talk about, you said that there's things like, even just things like silence can mean different things culturally in different countries. And a handshake, we was always taught to do a very firm handshake, but that isn't always necessarily the case. Can you share a couple of examples of those kind of nuances for me? Because I think I find that fascinating.
I love that question. Yes. Well, I mean, like interruptions, frequent interruptions can come across a little unfriendly in the UK, in the States. I'm sure same in New Zealand. If I keep interrupting you, you may think that maybe he's not interested in speaking. But in Latin culture, frequent interruptions shows engagement, and nobody gets mind about it. And silence is one that I love because. Silence, I mean, even 5 seconds of anything between 5 and 10 in a formal meeting can feel like a lifetime. I heard this from somebody who experienced it, and he was in Middle East. So somebody walked in the meeting before the meeting took place. there was a silence of like maybe 10 seconds. I mean, he felt like 2 minutes. And he said, what have I done? Have I done something wrong? They don't want to speak with me anymore, So he was having all these wild thoughts. And then all they were doing, they were settling the room. Mm-hmm. They were setting the scene. And then after that, then he realized that it was just a customary thing. And in Far East, when somebody stops speaking, before other person speaks, they wait to show that actually I heard what you said and I'm processing what you said. Then they start replying or speaking. So it's very much like used in different ways by different cultures. I mean, you might say, look, how will a business executive know all these things? Well, it is not that difficult once we have an open mind. I think the biggest thing that makes a difference is recognizing that there are different cultures. And all we need to look for signs of what is taking place around us. Forgetting our home environment, and something like hierarchy is very important in certain cultures, certain countries. So understanding who is the leader of the group, if there are like multiple people entering the room, one of the signs in hierarchical countries is that the person that enters the room first is more likely to be the head of the delegation. And the same way when the meeting ends, they are more than likely to leave the room first. Somebody junior, they wouldn't leave the room before that head of the meeting, head of the group would leave the room. And also in that respect, when person addresses the other person who is junior, could come across very unfriendly. So a business executive in this environment, all they have to do is just watch for these signs, having an open mind and say, who is the head of this delegation? Who is this head of the room? Yeah. Finding this out can save them a lot of hassle. One simple mistake that I'm sure we all must do that. In a meeting, if it's a hot day, take off your jackets, roll up your sleeves. Come on, let's do business. Yep. That's perfect. That may sound perfectly normal in a kind of American environment or in the UK. But in Far East, that can come across very hostile as well. Taking off your jacket, rolling up your sleeves.
Ready for a fight?
As if, ready for a fight, yeah. So I think it's just a matter of recognizing that there could be different interpretations and just look for those signs to understand what's going on.
It is absolutely fascinating. I'm just thinking, in New Zealand, there's no hierarchy about who comes into the meeting room first. Everybody just bowls in when they're ready, and off we go. It is absolutely fascinating. Tell me a little bit very quickly about handshakes, because I saw that in your brochure. So what's the thing about handshakes?
Well, I mean, normally a firm handshake is a sign of sincerity. Yeah. At least we think so in the Western Hemisphere. But in Far East, no handshake is not part of the culture. It's the bowing, So right. Because it's not part of the culture, a firm handshake can come across wrong. So if the handshake is soft, the important thing is not to interpret it as insincerity. It is because it is, handshakes are not part of the culture. And, for a business executive, soft handshake doesn't mean they shouldn't try to interpret that. This guy is not or this woman is not interested. It is. I think it's just a matter of keeping an open mind. Yeah. And another thing that was interesting is that taking calls in a meeting. Right. Which is normally, if I was to take a call while I'm speaking with you, okay, that's a different environment. It's a podcast.
But even in a meeting, even
in a meeting can come across really sort of strange. But But in some countries, there's nothing wrong with that. They'll do like, they believe in doing multitasking. And if that's the case, I shouldn't take any offense in that, because it's nothing personal. It's just it's what they do. So they'll take, or sometimes in a meeting environment, they're likely to speak to multiple people at the same time. Okay, it's not ideal because I wouldn't want to say anything confidential in this sort of environment. But then waiting for the right moment could solve the problem. It is just a matter of understanding what's going on and not taking any offense unnecessarily, and then just looking for the signs of trying to understand what are the norms in that environment.
Perfect. I'm sure there's a way to shortcut it as well, though, is by working with someone like you who actually understands it. Hey, tell me a little bit about your book. So what is your book designed to do? Has a good business in any language? Tell me a little bit about it.
Thank you. Thank you for asking, Debra. I appreciate that. Well, what I say is that a business should never rely on a single customer. That will be crazy, So we always look for multiple customers, as many as possible. So why rely on a single market? So when it comes to trading internationally in multiple markets makes pure sense as far as I can see, and as far as I can see from the success of the global brands. So the book is very much about this 5-step methodology that I call LINGO, explaining how a business executive can implement to take their business to new export markets. And I give a few case studies, success stories, and certain statistics just to help a business executive to say, right, okay, this can work. This can work for my business. I can do this. I can do this, and I can get the rewards.
Perfect. So we'll come back to where they can get hold of that in a moment. Just before we finish up, because the time has passed so quickly, do you have 3 top tips or tools that the listeners could, take on board and perhaps go and action something?
Well, the 3 that comes to mind is that I think the most important thing for a business executive is developing a mindset that global trade is beneficial. So nurturing that mindset is so important. That's my first tip. And the second one is thinking global. Everything around us has a global angle. The product we use, whether we use a smartphone of known brands, is likely to be marketed in one country, produced in another. The components of this will come from this country. It is a combination of international effort. So everything we have has got an international flavor. So think global, develop a mindset, and third tip, if I may say, read my book.
Of course, no, without a doubt, I'm going to recommend that. So tell us where they can. But you can see this case studies of things, and there are other.
It's not just my book. It's just reading a book. I learned a lot from Traction. Gino Wickman's Traction. I learned so much from that, and I always recommend to others. It's an operating system for entrepreneurs. So trying to find out, what global trade does, how it works. It's not just my book. There are other books as well. So having this curiosity that will lead them to the books that they will find it very helpful. Now, I'd love to offer my book to your listeners, free of charge.
Yep.
They need to visit levent.team, and there are 3 options. They can either get an ebook version of the book. They can buy it from Amazon if they wanted it, or they can get paperback version, and we send it free of charge to UK-based visitors. So there are 3 options, and it's totally free. And I'll be very happy to answer anyone who has a question about international trade, cultures, and languages.
So how do they get in contact with you again? Just remind us of the best way to get in contact with you.
Visit levent.team.
Yep.
Or find me in LinkedIn. My surname is quite unique. I don't think there are many Yildizgoren in LinkedIn.
Yes.
And or they can search with the name of the book. It comes up in searches. But the best one is like visiting levent.team to get the book. Also, there are a couple of goodies. Also, we have a Facebook group that listeners can join to ask questions and see what other people are doing in relation to international trade.
Oh, that's fantastic. Hey, look, I mean, you mentioned the book Traction, and obviously I'm an EOS implementer. We talk about the EOS life, which is doing what you love with people you love, making a huge difference, being compensated appropriately in time to pursue other passions. It sounds very much to me, listening to you, that you're leading that life. And I thank you for all the work that you do for helping others. So thank you for coming on board this morning. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom, especially late in the evening. I shall look forward to actually looking at that book myself.
Thank you, Debra. It's been a total pleasure being on your show. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thanks again for joining us on Better Business, Better Life with me, your host, Debra Chantry-Taylor. If you enjoyed what you heard, then please subscribe to this podcast and let us help you to get what you want out of business and life. Each week we release a new short episode which will give a success story and 3 takeouts to put into action immediately. These will help you take your business from good to great. The podcast is also supported by free resources, templates and useful tools, which you can find at debrachantrytaylor.com. I am a trained entrepreneurial leadership and business coach, a professional EOS implementer, and an established business owner myself. I work with established businesses to help them get what they want. Feel free to contact me if you'd like to have a chat about how I might be able to help you, or if you'd like to join me as a guest on this podcast. Thanks again to NZ Audio Editors for producing this podcast. See you on the next episode.